Discarded photos revealed a shy girl's incredible journey. Discover how she transformed her life. Emily Parker had always felt like she was caught in a still frame while the world around her danced a vibrant blur of colors and laughter, of dreams loudly proclaimed. As a 17-year-old with a vintage camera clutched tightly in her hands, she had seen her little town of Hopewell, Ohio, in ways others couldn't. Each click of the shutter was a chance to escape the limiting boundaries of her personality, a doorway to the stories of lives lived hard and well. Yet, one critical doubt gnawed at her: was her art merely childish, like her dreams trapped behind the walls of her shyness? Rummaging through the attic one rainy afternoon, she stumbled upon a dusty box overflowed with her grandmother's forgotten photographs. As she flipped through the weathered snapshots, each photograph told a story of quiet resilience, of fierce hopes and delicate fears. Yet, within the beauty of those memories lay a stark realization: her grandmother, an artist at heart, had allowed her dreams to gather dust like those old pictures, never to see the light of day. Emily's heart raced while her breath hitched in her throat. Had she been destined for the same fate? The weight of that legacy pressed down on her like a thundercloud ready to burst. As she began sharing her own photos, fragments of Hopewell's essence, her heart flitted eagerly between pride and paralyzing fear. She saw the beauty in a farmer's weathered hands, the joy in children's carefree laughter, and the silent resilience of an elderly couple holding hands. Yet, her confidence faltered with a casual remark from a well-meaning family friend. "Why are you wasting your time?" He chuckled dismissively. "Photography is a child's game." A cold wave of disbelief washed over her. With one thoughtless comment, the breath she had taken to soar suddenly vanished, leaving her trapped in the suffocating confines of doubt. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. In her moments of despair, she unexpectedly crossed paths with Professor Martin, a passionate art instructor. His belief in her work ignited a flicker of hope within Emily, but alongside hope came fear. What if he misunderstood her desire? Would he see through the shroud of her social anxiety and realize she was just a girl playing dress-up in the world of art? Every encouragement felt like a beckoning call toward the horizon, a chance to stand outside her shell, yet the thought of failure loomed ominously. The atmosphere at home began to shift when her father's business faced turmoil, whispers of failure swirling like autumn leaves caught in a storm. Tension hung thickly over every family dinner, each bite of food tasting like regret. Would she dare to pursue her dreams when her family's legacy seemed to teeter precariously on the edge? With the weight of her past on her shoulders and a future uncertain, Emily grappled with her identity as an artist. Could she break free from the chains of expectation, or was she destined to let her voice drown in the cacophony of the world around her? Each click of her camera echoed with her internal struggle. Her art could be her salvation, or the catalyst of destruction. Would she have the courage to face the storm brewing not only in her family but within herself as well? Tension thickened in her chest, and the possibilities spiraled out of control. Was she strong enough to reclaim her family's honor while also stepping into her truth? The stakes were rising, and with each pulse of uncertainty, Emily knew transformation hung perilously close, a revelation just out of reach, waiting for her to seize it. In the following days, every moment felt charged with expectation. Emily found herself torn between two worlds, the comforting arms of familiarity and the dizzying heights of possibility. She would often wander through the town, camera in hand, capturing life unfolding in vivid yet delicate frames. Yet, after every satisfying click, unease quickly followed. The thrill of creation was often overshadowed by the haunting question: did her art matter? The walls of their home echoed with her family's growing financial strain. Her father's worried sighs were loud even in silence, a reminder that her aspirations came at a cost. As Emily stood in the kitchen attempting to balance homework with her artwork, the realization struck like a thunderclap: she needed to do more than simply take photos, she needed to prove their worth, to herself and to her family. One evening, driven by a whirlwind of anxiety and ambition, she set out for an important decision. She approached Professor Martin, her heart racing as she searched for the right words. The gallery he had mentioned weeks earlier, the one that showcased emerging talent, loomed in her mind. "I want to enter my work," she blurted, the words tumbling out in a rush before the self-doubt could choke them back. His brow furrowed slightly, but the spark in his eyes told a different story. "Emily, have you prepared enough?" "Enough for what?" She felt her pulse quicken. Her intent was unclear even to her, but this felt like a pivotal moment. To present work that reflects your unique voice. You must draw from your experiences, weave them into your art. Trust yourself. The idea of pouring her essence into a collection felt daunting. Would it be enough? What if the world saw her art as merely a child's play? Yet, deep down, a flicker of determination ignited. Could this be the opportunity she desperately needed to reclaim her identity? To show that her dreams weren't just illusions hiding behind the dust of family expectations? Days turned into a blur of creativity and turmoil. She set up a makeshift studio in her room, surrounded by pages filled with ideas and concepts. Each photograph she printed brought forth memories: her grandmother's laughter, the warm sun setting over their small town, the quiet resilience of individuals who battled through life's ups and downs. But the ghosts of self-doubt still hovered, whispering cruel taunts. What if you fail? What if no one cares? In moments of quiet, these thoughts would flood her mind, paralyzing her spirit. Yet, she needed to confront them. What had Professor Martin said? She must trust herself. With that mantra pulsing in her veins, she started a new project, a series that depicted the raw, unfiltered beauty of hope while the roots of her past intertwined with her aspirations. Sharing these new works brought a fierce blend of hope and terror. She scrolled through her social media accounts, biting her lip, waiting for validation. Each message, each like, felt like a tempest, the silence deafening when none came. But then, an unexpected comment emerged. "You have a gift, Emily. Keep going." A stranger in the expansive universe had seen her, had felt something through her lens, and for the first time, the weight of expectation felt a little lighter. The tension at home hadn't eased, but Emily felt a pulse of resilience growing within her. She was doing something, crafting her identity from the remnants of fear. Yet the weight of her family's struggles loomed larger with every passing day, threatening to overshadow her accomplishments. The school year was coming to a close, and she had one last chance to enter the gallery's competition. Would she be brave enough to submit her work? Could she push through the discomfort and claim her space in the artistic world, even if it meant standing alone? With image after image before her, she realized the time had come. The moment to face the harsh glare of judgment, both external and internal. Would she embrace this opportunity, or would she retreat back into the shadows? The clock ticked mercilessly, the submission deadline creeping closer. Was she ready for the world to see her? She drew a deep breath, silencing the doubts crowding her mind. It was time to confront not just her talent, but her very identity. The decision loomed large, the path uncertain. Would she have the courage to take that leap into vulnerability and self-acceptance? Her heart thundered against her chest, and with each beat, she came closer to grasping her destiny, one that awaited just beyond the frame of her camera. Time blurred as Emily stood before her computer, the submission page glimmering ominously on the screen. It was as though the blinking cursor echoed the doubts pulsating in her mind. Was it really time? She hesitated, fingers poised above the keyboard, uncertainty clinging to her like fog. Each passing second felt like an eternity of potential rejection. The room around her felt suffocating, walls inching closer with every thought of inadequacy. She glanced at the photos lined up on her desk, each one telling a story, capturing moments interwoven with her life. Yet, the nagging undertow of fear grounded her in place, reminding her of all the times she had held back from jumping into the unknown. Flashes of last week played in her mind, the exhilarating highs of sharing her work online followed quickly by the crushing weight of silence. She had been bolstered by one encouraging comment, but that wasn't enough to dilute her anxiety about exposing herself further. Could she truly open herself to a wider audience when her own family barely understood her art? Then, somewhere between self-doubt and desire, a flicker of resolve surged. What if I fail? She had asked herself 1,000 times. But with Professor Martin's voice echoing in her head, trust yourself, she searched for that little flame of determination again. This was her chance to break free from the shackles that defined her. With a deep breath, she pulled up her most recent portfolio. Each photo, a piece of her heart, waited for the chance to be seen. She began to scroll through them methodically, recalling the inspiration behind each shot: the old, wise oak in the park where she found solace, the cascading brightness of light filtering through the kitchen window during her grandmother's Sunday morning rituals, and the street musicians whose melodies had always warmed her spirit. Memories rushed back, infusing her with the vigor to fight against the impending inertia. She selected the photographs that resonated the most with her current journey, images that intertwined the vibrancy of her past with the uncertainty of her future. Each one projected not just what she saw but also who she was. Sitting up straighter, she began to write the statement for her submission, pouring her thoughts into words: the significance of vulnerability, the complexity of identity, the breath of courage that unfurling her wings necessitated. The sunlight crept through the window, illuminating her workspace, giving her the courage to continue. With every keystroke, each word felt more like a declaration rather than merely an accomplishment. This wasn't about waiting for validation anymore, it was about claiming her voice. As she clicked through the last of the required forms, the pace of her heart accelerated. This meant more than a competition, it was her assertion of self-worth. A final deep breath to fortify her resolve culminated in a swift click of the submit button. The feeling was electric, a mix between liberation and trepidation. She felt as if she was standing on the edge of a precipice, her heartbeat resonating in her ears. This was a step out of the shadows and into the possibility of something more. Yet, as the message confirming her submission flashed on the screen, another thought loomed large in her mind. Was it enough? Could she let go of the need for external approval? Emily knew the road ahead was fraught with uncertainty, yet she yearned for growth, confronting her fears, pursuing her passion. Feeling a swell of both excitement and anxiety, she leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with what came next. The weight loomed ahead, a nebulous space filled with the unknown. On one hand, there was the thrill of anticipation, on the other, fear of potential disappointment. How would she cope with either outcome? With her camera resting on the table before her, she glanced at it with newfound resolve. It represented her journey, her voice, her growth. Beyond just a means of expression, it was a tool of discovery of herself and what she could become. Little did she know, the subsequent round of judgments would soon test all she had mustered through her art. Would the gallery recognize her courage, or would she face the harsh reality of rejection? Would she embrace the challenge ahead, whatever it might bring, or would she allow fear to swallow her whole once more? In the dark silence that followed her submission, Emily felt a familiar fire stir within her, a determination not just to be seen but to be heard. What awaited her now, perhaps, would be the moment of truth that could change everything. The days unfolded slowly, each one a test of Emily's patience. A flicker of excitement danced within her, sparking an unrelenting need to fill the void left by uncertainty. She immersed herself in her photography, constantly seeking the next shot, the next opportunity to tell her story. The waiting period for feedback from the submission had become an incubator for creativity, each moment a chance to refine her perspective. Yet, that shimmer of hope was often drowned by darker thoughts. What if they didn't see the beauty in her work? What if her voice remained silent, unheard in the clamor of competition? Night after night, as she lay in bed, the gravity of those questions curled around her like a heavy shroud. She found herself wrestling with self-doubt, tattered remnants of confidence drifting away with every internal argument. To combat this spiraling doubt, she took to the streets, her camera a constant companion. Every click of the shutter became an act of defiance against her fear, an assertion of her identity. The bustling landscapes brought her clarity. Every candid moment captured was a reminder that beauty existed even in the mundane. One crisp afternoon, Emily wandered to her favorite spot by the old oak tree, where she spent countless hours contemplating her future. She set her camera down beside her and pondered the crumpled notepad filled with harsh critiques from her past attempts, comments from a workshop that had stung deeply. Too emotional. Too personal. No commercial value. She opened the notepad and read the words aloud, feeling the weight they carried. But as she spoke, a new clarity dawned. Those critiques hadn't crushed her spirit, they had fueled her desire to prove herself wrong. She began scribbling new thoughts alongside the critiques, each one a surge of confidence. Emotional depth makes art impactful. Personal narratives resonate on a human level. Authenticity is always valuable. With each stroke of her pen, she sought to transform. They were no longer words of defeat, they were an invitation to reclaim her narrative. Inspired, she envisioned a new project that would reflect the evolution of her artistic voice, a photo essay juxtaposing her older, self-doubting self with who she was becoming. It struck her, this was not merely about external validation but about owning her journey, embracing every facet of herself. As she scanned her surroundings for inspiration, the scene before her shimmered. Children played nearby, laughter breaking through the weight of her thoughts. An idea blossomed: she would photograph the contrasts between light and shadow, joy and apprehension, her life and her art. This project would be a visual dialogue, a confrontation with her vulnerabilities that demanded recognition. In the coming days, she poured all her energy into this new endeavor, collecting moments that resonated with her transformative journey. The old oak tree became a metaphor for strength and growth as she captured its changing leaves, each season reflecting her own evolution. With the turn of every shutter, Emily felt a new layer of skill emerging. She played with angles, light, and shadows, learning to regard seemingly insignificant details with fresh eyes. Yet, as fulfilling as this project was, the looming question of her initial submission still weighed heavily. What would happen when the feedback finally arrived? Would her newfound courage be enough to withstand failure, or would the fear of rejection twist through her resolve like a serpent? On a particularly quiet evening, she sat alone in her room, reviewing the images from her project. The small screen of her camera glowed softly, showcasing her journey thus far, but a sense of longing nagged at her soul. Would her art fit into the world she desperately wanted to be a part of? That night, she found herself staring at the old critiques, transformed by her new perspective. As her heart raced, she contemplated sending her new project to the gallery, staking her claim on her own narrative. But what if they dismissed it again? As she fought between this desire to share and the weight of previous fears, a thought struck her: what if success wasn't defined by others' responses, but by her commitment to her journey? The realization pulled her deeper into a moment of truth. But could she dare to expose her new voice, still shadowed by echoes of doubt? With her finger hovering above her laptop's mouse, she hesitated, grappling with the conflicting emotions. What if this time, she not only revealed her photos but unleashed her very essence? With uncertainty pressing heavily on her chest and ambition coiling in her stomach, Emily realized it was time to embrace not only her art but her story. Transformation hung in the balance, a new chapter ready to unfold, tinged with trepidation yet brimming over with possibility. But as she took the plunge, the familiar sound of an incoming message pinged on her computer, sending a fresh wave of anxiety crashing through her resolve. What news awaited her there? Emily's breath hitched as she clicked on the notification, her heart racing with a mix of hopes and fears. The email was from the gallery. The moment she read, "Thank you for your submission," an icy panic settled in her chest. She skimmed through the carefully crafted words, searching for any indication of acceptance or rejection. The mere act of opening the email felt as monumental as stepping onto a stage, exposed and vulnerable. With trembling fingers, she discovered that they appreciated her storytelling, yet the piece didn't quite fit their current theme. Relief washed over her at first. They valued her work, but a profound disappointment quickly followed, a shadow creeping over her newfound energy. She had poured herself into the project, each photograph a piece of her soul. To be told it fell short was a hard blow. How could they appreciate what she had to offer yet still find it lacking? Emily's mind raced as a torrent of self-doubt flooded back, suffocating her recent resolve. What if she had misread her growth? What if she wasn't an artist at all? The gallery's decision shattered her burgeoning confidence, and she felt stripped of her voice once again. In the dim light of her room, she clutched her camera. This small device had become her lifeline, yet now it felt heavier than ever. Memories of laughter and joy, of triumph over her fears, clashed with the weight of the critique that loomed larger than it had just moments before. Was she prepared to leap into the abyss of self-expression again? After hours of brooding, the dawn reached through her window, its light transforming the shadows of doubt into a muted gray. She could either succumb to despair or forge new paths. The decision crystallized in her mind: she would not allow rejection to extinguish her aspiration. Instead, she delved deeper into understanding her art, honing what was uniquely hers. That day, she ventured again to the old oak tree. Life swirled around her with an urgency she had never noticed before. There was a truth in these moments: life was not just about acceptance, it was about the courage to confront oneself and share that reflection, however raw. The tree stood steadfast, its branches reaching toward the sky, even as seasons changed. With each image she captured, the strength of the oak became a metaphor for her resilience, and in that moment, her identity began to coalesce anew. Each photograph taken served as both a testament to her journey and a declaration that her voice deserved to be heard, regardless of the gallery's opinions. The notion of sending her project elsewhere began to bloom in her mind, an idea that lit a fire within her. Yet still, the fear of disappointment lingered, a ghost that whispered doubts into her ear every time she began to plan her next move. Weeks passed, and Emily worked relentlessly, crafting a new, bolder narrative with her lens. Each photo became a chapter, yet the thought of sharing it weighed heavily in her mind. The contrast between the self she had been and the self she aspired to be was stark, a juxtaposition of vulnerability and growth. Documenting that evolution felt daring, almost daring enough to break free from the constraints of approval. Finally, the thought hung incomplete in her mind, disrupted by a conflicting urge to retreat back into the safety of anonymity. But looking at the oak tree with its weathered bark and twisting branches, she understood she had the power to grow beyond these doubts. She wished to capture this journey and share it, to transform rejection into inspiration, to finally unleash her voice upon the world. The camera felt lighter in her hands now. With renewed determination, she would reach out, not just to any gallery but to one that could resonate with her vision. As she set her path to search for the right opportunity, a notification pinged on her phone. She hesitated, her heart racing at the prospect that this next message could alter everything again. Would it be yet another rejection or a breakthrough that would propel her into the world she dreamed of? What awaited her on the other side of that screen? The notification screen glowed like a flickering beacon, pulling Emily from her thoughts. Her fingers hovered briefly before she tapped it open, feeling the echo of her heart hammering against her ribs as she read the message. It was an invitation. An art collective in a neighboring city was interested in her work and wanted to showcase it in their upcoming group exhibition. A rush of adrenaline flooded her. This was it, this could be the opportunity she'd been waiting for. Yet, just as quickly, doubt slithered in, wrapping around her intentions. Did they see value in her photographs, or had they simply gained interest in her because she had reached out during a moment of vulnerability? Pushing the fear aside, Emily allowed herself to feel the thrill of possibility. She envisioned the gallery walls adorned with her photographs. The blossoming vulnerability she had been cultivating would finally be on display. Mornings spent revisiting the oak tree and capturing the world around her filled her with a sense of purpose. She had intended every shot to tell a piece of her story. Weeks passed in a haze of creativity and excitement. Emily curated her collection with meticulous care, each photograph a reflection of the person she was becoming. She refined her narrative, deliberate in selecting images that illustrated not only her connection to the oak tree but also her struggle against the crippling fears of inadequacy. But with the thrill came the pressure. A sense of urgency swelled in her as the exhibition date loomed closer. As she laid the photographs out for final review, she was overwhelmed with introspection. The self-doubt that had previously engulfed her emerged again, weaving insidious patterns in her mind. What if the audience saw her work as just another failed attempt to capture something profound? What if they didn't resonate with her vision? In these moments of hesitation, a part of her wanted to retreat back into obscurity. She found herself questioning if sharing her journey was worth the discomfort of risk. Yet, just as she had on that first day beneath the oak, she grabbed her camera, using it as a grounding tool, a reminder of her growth. One evening, determined to silence the self-criticism, she sought solitude in the soft glow of her favorite café. Flipping through her photographs, it struck her how much each image had documented her journey of transformation. They laid bare her fears, her moments of strength, and an evolving identity she was learning to embrace. The weight of acceptance shifted. It wasn't about the gallery's validation, it was about her own understanding of self. That thought brought clarity and resolve. She began composing a speech to accompany her work, a narrative that encapsulated not merely the aesthetic of her photographs but the essence of her journey, her resilience, and her unwavering pursuit of authenticity. This was not solely about the art. The exhibition was an invitation for others to witness the growth of a shy girl stepping into her own power. As the opening night approached, Emily stood before the collected frames, nerves dancing in her stomach. She needed to confront her fear head-on, to expose herself artistically and personally. Would she deliver her speech with confidence, or would the weight of doubt anchor her down? The night arrived, and the gallery buzzed with excitement. As the doors opened and the crowd shuffled in, empowerment coursed through her veins, mingled with an ever-present tremor of anxiety. Taking a deep breath, she clutched her notes tightly as she prepared to step into the spotlight. The moment of truth was now, and her heart raced not just with fear but with fervent anticipation. Would this be the crescendo of her journey, or the beginning of a new chapter fraught with unforeseen challenges and new revelations? Emily stood at the entrance of the gallery, the vibrant cacophony of voices swirling around her. The sights, sounds, and earthy smell of paint and wood mixed with the faint aroma of coffee and pastries filled the air. She felt like an outsider looking in, a specter among the vibrant, alive congregation celebrating art. Each conversation, each burst of laughter felt like an attack against her silent fears. Yet, beneath the fluttering apprehension, something deeper stirred within her, a burgeoning sense of belonging. As attendees drifted among the artwork, their reactions began to shift something fundamental in Emily. She sought their glances, their expressions of wonder or contemplation, as a way of gauging her worth. What would they see? Would they appreciate the stories hidden behind her photographs? Taking a steadying breath, she approached her carefully assembled collection. Each photograph spoke volumes. Her moments of vulnerability crystallized into visual fragments, narratives entwined with her personal journey. Her hand brushed against the frame of the first piece, a shot of the oak tree at dawn, shimmering in golden light. It wasn't just a tree, it was her anchor. The exhibition was no longer merely a showcase, it was a chronicle of her struggle, her triumphs, and her growth. Each click of her shutter had captured pieces of her soul, converging into this very moment. Yet the shadow of self-doubt still loomed. Standing beside her photographs, she could almost hear the whispers of criticism clawing at her confidence. What if they dismissed her work as trivial or shallow? That fear pushed against her sternum, making her breath quicken. With renewed resolve, she navigated the gallery, engaging in conversations. Some visitors expressed admiration, while others sought to delve deeper into her inspirations. She unveiled the narrative behind each piece, her story flowing into their responses like art itself. With every word, she discovered an authenticity that turned her vulnerability into strength. She spoke not just of her art, but of the woman behind the lens. Later in the evening, as she stepped away to collect her thoughts, she overheard snippets of conversation from a group nearby. "I related so much to her struggle," one woman said. "It's like I could see my own fears reflected in her work." Emily felt her heart swell. Validation from strangers, a connection she longed for but never anticipated. And in that instant, something fundamental clicked within her. She understood that her work was more than just a representation of her life, it was a bridge between her and the world. The act of sharing her journey was, in itself, a powerful declaration, vulnerable yet resilient. She wasn't just an artist anymore, she was a storyteller, one who wove struggle and triumph into a tapestry of visual poetry. However, a sudden pang of apprehension gnawed at the edges of her triumph. Could she maintain this newfound sense of confidence? The exhibition would have its end, and with it would come the fear of returning to anonymity. Emily knew she needed to safeguard this ember of courage. What would be her next step? A chance encounter with a fellow photographer in the gallery sparked a conversation that would alter her trajectory. "You know," he said, eyes gleaming with inspiration, "have you thought about creating a series that explores the theme of transformation? Your journey could empower so many others." His words echoed in her mind, each syllable striking a chord of possibility. The concept unfolded within her, a whirlwind of ideas coalescing. The next chapter of her artistic journey began to take shape, shimmering like a fragmented reflection on water. As the gallery lights dimmed and the crowd thinned, Emily faced the exit with a mix of trepidation and excitement. She had faced her fear and emerged transformed. But a deeper question loomed within her: would she have the courage to dive into this new venture? Could she sustain the momentum her art had gained, or would the fear of inadequacy creep back in? With this uncertainty gnawing at her mind, she stepped outside into the cool night air, invigorated yet apprehensive about what lay ahead. What awaited her in this uncharted territory? Emily took a deep breath, ready to embark on a journey anew, where challenges would confront her artistry in unimaginable ways. The night air wrapped itself around Emily like a fresh canvas waiting to be painted. As she walked, the dim lights of the street cast soft shadows, a reminder of the darkness she fought against within. Each step felt deliberate, an assertion of her intent to transform not just her art, but herself. The idea of a series focused on transformation resonated deeply. She envisioned a collection that encapsulated her struggles and adaptations, a testament to growth layered with the rawness of her experiences. The concept was her first taste of empowerment, a window through which she could peer into her evolving identity. But how to execute it remained a question looming large in her mind. Over the next few days, Emily sank into a routine that oscillated between exhilaration and dread. She pored over her past photographs, reliving each captured moment. These images, once mere fragments of her life, began to morph into pivotal points of change. She realized that she had not just captured moments, she had documented the metamorphosis of her spirit. She gathered her tools: the camera, her notebook filled with scrawled thoughts, and a map to chart her new artistic journey. This time, every click of the shutter had a purpose. She decided to document not only her environment but herself as she ventured into new spaces, chasing her fears and inviting vulnerability into the frame. Yet, as the days passed, Emily battled whispers of self-doubt more fiercely than ever. Would her new series hold its weight? Would she be seen not only as the shy girl behind the lens but as the courageous artist she yearned to be? Determined to silence that nagging entity within her, she reached out to a local art collective, sharing her idea for the series. To her surprise, they welcomed her enthusiasm with open arms and offered her a space to develop her project. Collectively, they brainstormed how to visually depict transformation through their own experiences, merging her concept with themes of resilience and growth. Each new voice added a layer of support, igniting a spark in Emily that she hadn't anticipated. She began to see her potential as a collaborator. With this newfound community, she engaged in discussions that challenged and invigorated her perspective. Her confidence was steadily cultivating. Each meeting became a session of shared wisdom rather than a comparison of talents. Emily started envisioning her series not just as a personal endeavor but as a collective exploration of human experience. With each passing week, the series developed into something more profound than she had originally imagined. Emily plotted her shoots in diverse locations and met with individuals willing to share their stories of transformation, weaving them into her narrative. The act of listening, absorbing their journeys, and reflecting their essence in her photographs became a salve to her insecurities. One evening, while reviewing her shots, Emily stumbled upon a particular image. It caught her off guard, resonating with an intensity she hadn't anticipated. It was a photograph of a woman she had met, framed against a backdrop of vibrant city lights, her gaze powerful yet tender. The look of unyielding hope in her eyes ignited a realization: transformation was not merely about change, it was about embracing the full spectrum of one's journey. Feeling the pulse of inspiration surge through her, Emily sat down with her notebook, determined to articulate the narrative behind each photo. Affirmations would soon intertwine with her visuals, each story a tribute to resilience and the shared human condition. As she immersed herself in this newfound dedication, a question surfaced hauntingly: what if, despite all the preparations, she once again fell into the abyss of self-doubt? With her exhibit approaching, could she prove to herself that vulnerability could indeed be her strength? The tension lingered, leaving her eager yet terrified to unveil her series to the world. Emily stared at the blank wall in front of her, her heart beating with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The moment was drawing near, and with it, the chance to confront her fears head-on. How would her art resonate with those who viewed it? Would it pave the way for her to emerge from the shadows? The question lingered like a whisper in the darkness, propelling her forward into a moment of inevitable truth. In the days leading up to her exhibit, Emily's anticipation mingled seamlessly with her anxiety. She spent hours in front of her computer, refining the narrative that would accompany each photograph. The words danced across the page, attempting to capture the essence of transformation, yet her mind frequently spiraled back to feelings of inadequacy. Was her voice strong enough to reach others? Mornings began with the gentle rustle of dried leaves tapping against her window, and each day brought a fresh wave of inspiration. Striving to communicate the raw emotions behind every subject's journey, Emily reflected on her own. She recognized that her artistic path had been shaped not only by her accomplishments but by her struggles. That realization stirred a flicker of bravery within her. Could this vulnerability be the heart of her project? One afternoon, as she walked through her neighborhood, Emily stumbled upon a small cafe where a woman sat quietly sketching in a notebook. Intrigued, she approached and struck up a conversation. The woman, Clara, shared her story of resilience, a battle against self-doubt that had nearly stolen her dreams of becoming an artist. The parallels were striking. Once again, Emily felt drawn to the power of shared narratives. "Would you be willing to be part of my series?" Emily asked impulsively, the quietness of her voice trembling with anticipation. Clara's eyes lit up. "I would be honored." The meeting propelled Emily into a flurry of creativity. She watched as Clara poured her soul into her sketches, and in that moment, Emily understood her current project was not just her own, it was a symphony of shared experiences, resonating with a universal echo of struggle and triumph. However, self-doubt lurked in the shadows, often manifesting when she least expected it. After returning home, she found herself staring at her photographs yet again, analyzing the imperfections. What if they weren't good enough? What if the stories fell flat beneath the weight of her expectations? The incessant cycle of doubt threatened to consume the deep connections she had begun establishing. But during a particularly long night, as her eyelids grew heavy, a breakthrough emerged within her thoughts. Emily recalled the moment she had invited vulnerability into her artistic process. What if she centered that feeling in her work instead? She began scribbling a few lines in her notebook. "These stories are not about perfection, they are about growth. Each fold of my journey is as important as the successes I pursue. The next day, she returned to Clara with renewed energy. They collaborated on a small shoot where Emily captured Clara's essence through her lens, focusing not on the end product but on the unfolding of authentic emotion. Together, they created moments that spoke louder than any framing could contain silent whispers of strength and deep-seated fears. By the time the exhibit approached, her photos had transformed into a captivating exploration of the human experience, each accompanied by narratives that delved into the struggles the subjects had faced. Yet Emily grappled with a lingering question: would the world receive her as she had intended? As the day drew near, an unexpected correspondent reached out. It was a local journalist interested in featuring her series in a prominent magazine. A mixture of pride and fear gripped her. Could the attention magnify her vulnerabilities? Or would it serve as a platform for her voice? The stakes felt infinitely higher. What began as a fleeting thought morphed into a pressing reality. This was more than an exhibit, it was a potentially life-changing moment. Emily closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and contemplated what this leap of faith could mean. The chance to be seen, truly seen, awaited. Would she seize it, or let her self-doubt hold her captive? The clock ticked steadily, urging her to decide. Would she rise above the shadows of her fears, or let them dictate her future? The choice remained tantalizingly close yet frighteningly uncertain. In mere days, the entire world could shift. Would she allow it? The evening of the exhibit arrived, the atmosphere electric with anticipation. Emily stood amidst her photographs, a quiet storm of emotions swirling within her. She had transformed. A once-thought timid girl had become a purposeful artist, ready to step into the light. The walls around her echoed not just with her photographs but with the narratives that underscored each image. Vulnerability, courage, and resilience danced in the air, setting the stage for that pivotal moment to finally arrive. As guests began to arrive, Emily's heart raced. Conversations fluttered, punctuating the air, while her eyes darted to the faces that turned toward her work. Each glance carried the weight of 1,000 possibilities. Would they feel the same connection she experienced while capturing those moments? Would they understand the significance of the stories behind each image? Strong voices filled the gallery, grappling with the profound emotions born from her photographs. Someone whispered, "This piece truly speaks to the struggle of self-acceptance," sparking a sense of recognition within Emily. She smiled, warmth flooding through her heart, a stark contrast to the chill of self-doubt that had previously haunted her. Just as she gathered the strength to introduce herself to a viewer, the familiar ping of her phone jolted her back to reality. The local journalist had arrived, a feature was set to amplify her presence in the art world. It was time for her to listen, to articulate her journey not only through her art but also through her words. When the moment to speak arrived, Emily inhaled deeply, allowing herself to step forward. The audience quieted, enveloped in an unspoken expectation. Her heart pounded in rhythm with her resolve. She had not just conquered her fears, she had embraced them. "I stand before you," she opened, her voice steady, not merely as the photographer but as someone who has faced the constraints of doubt, a journey explored through the lens of vulnerability. As she guided them through her work, speaking about the stories she had captured, the warmth of human connections, the intricate tapestry of life, each word resonated with her growth. They were reflections of not just herself but connections to others who had shared their experiences of transformation. Their responses overwhelmed her, nods of understanding, murmurs of recognition rippled through the crowd. Emily finally felt the validation she had long sought. The celebration of her art transformed every lingering inkling of doubt into a buoyant affirmation of growth. Later, one viewer approached her. "Your series has ignited something within me," he said, a light in his eyes. "It's beautiful to see how each photograph captures the essence of growth through vulnerability." Energetically feeding off the affirmative interactions, Emily navigated the gallery with renewed confidence. She no longer felt like an outsider but instead a testament to what it meant to embrace one's truth. Then, when the moment finally came, the journalist approached Emily, excited to delve deeper into her transformative journey. Their conversation flowed, every question becoming a thread woven into the rich tapestry of her experience. They discussed her childhood, the weight of family expectations, and her impassioned battle against doubt. As their dialogue intensified, the journalist's interest glowed brighter. This story held the promise not just of artistic recognition but something more profound, a reflection of the human experience, an exploration of self-discovery. After a whirlwind of insightful discussions, Emily felt a pivotal shift. She wasn't merely presenting photographs, she was articulating a universal narrative. This entire evening served as a validation of not just her art but of the transformative power of vulnerability and resilience. As the exhibit drew to a close, a palpable wave of satisfaction washed over Emily. She had achieved something monumental. The whispers of fear that had once paralyzed her seemed to evaporate, replaced by solid confidence in her craft. The finale of her journey resonated far beyond her aspirations of artistic expression. Emily had proven to herself that her voice mattered. She had shifted from uncertainty to a place of authentic recognition and accomplishment. With her newfound clarity, she realized her art held value not only to her but for anyone navigating the complexities of self-acceptance. The night ended, and as she stepped outside into the cool night air, Emily felt the weight of countless burdens lift off her shoulders. She had emerged, not just as a photographer but as an individual transformed. Stepping away from the shadows of doubt, she embraced the realization that her story, though rooted in fear, was blooming within the cadence of courage and authenticity. In that moment, she resolved to continue exploring her new identity not just for herself, but to empower others on their journeys. The future lay ahead, a canvas ready to be painted with possibilities, and she was prepared to fill it with life and stories yet untold. This was her moment and she would seize it. If you felt inspired by Emily's journey and want to experience more emotional narratives like this, you need to subscribe now to our channel. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and comment below your reactions and theories about Emily's incredible story. Your engagement helps us bring more transformative content just like this. Let's keep the momentum going.